What the city is talking about, the news that impacts you. Welcome to the Montreal Now podcast with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
I'm Aaron Rand along with Natasha Hall, and welcome to the Best of Montreal Now here on CJAD. And this week, we'll take a look at these stories. With COVID-19 now in its seventh wave across Canada, many Canadians have become desensitized to the fact that people are still ending up in hospital and in some cases dying from it. We'll speak to a man who sadly found out firsthand just how serious things have become.
If you're a fan of SNL, then you definitely know comedian Jay Pharoah. He was in town for Just for Laughs, and he sure made us laugh. We caught up with him. Bad news, though, if you thought you can eat whatever you want as long as you exercise a lot. A health fitness writer gives it to us straight.
But we begin today with a story that shocked many Canadians this week. Hockey Canada. The organization finds itself embroiled in a scandal over the way it handled, or perhaps more appropriately, mishandled sexual assault claims. We'll talk to a professor who's been studying the culture of silence in the organization and what she believes needs to happen next. Chances are, if you've been paying any attention to the news, you know I guess we can call it scandal that Hockey Canada has found itself in. Players, this dates back, of course, now, it turns out almost 20 years. Incidents back in 2018, incidents back in 2003. A lot of people questioning what's going on, and the discovery of what's being called a slush fund earlier in the week to deal with these sexual assault allegations from players within the organization. So we thought we'd give you a different perspective here, and then I'm going to play a clip from earlier in the day from Ari Goldkind, who was on with Elias today. He's a criminal defense lawyer. He's got a bit of a different take on this. But first, KRISTI ALLAIN is an associate professor in sociology studies at St. Thomas University and has been studying men's hockey culture for years, is on the line right now. Hi, KRISTI. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
I guess my first question is, studying men's hockey culture, how does, did you branch off into that as a focus, or how did that start?
I started doing this work as a master's student. My family billeted a player that played for the Petes, and I became very curious about the culture of men's hockey in Canada and continued that research on to my PhD and up until today. So I've been studying men and cultures of masculinity in Canada. I'm really interested in issues of Canadian national identity, sport, masculinity, and that's how I came to study it.
And in hearing what I just described, this Hockey Canada scandal, what was your first reaction when you heard this?
I think anyone who's paid even a little bit of attention to men's elite level hockey in Canada wasn't all that surprised. I mean, I think that we might have been hurt and dismayed and horrified, but I don't think surprise is the right word. There have been these sorts of scandals of all sorts. They come up regularly. It wasn't even a year ago since we heard what had happened to Kyle Beach and the lack of reaction from the NHL. There have been other sexual abuse scandals. I think the year before, Dan Carcillo launched a class action lawsuit accusing the Canadian Hockey League of not protecting players against sexual abuse from player to player during hazing rituals. So I think if you'd been paying attention, you might have been horrified, but you weren't at all surprised.
And now with these, the latest scandals that we're hearing about, of course, Hockey Canada has released an action plan, right, to combat what they call toxic behaviors, a culture of silence. Can Hockey Canada really be part of the solution when they've been a huge part of the problem?
I think absolutely not. I think you've really hit the nail on the head. The people who created this mess cannot be the people who see us through it. We know that Hockey Canada has known about these allegations since shortly after they happened. They've had 4 years. Why are they producing an action plan now? Why wasn't this put into effect, when they knew there was a definitive problem? These issues have been coming up time and time again. The reason we're seeing an action plan now is that people like Scott Smith and the board of directors at Hockey Canada and men's elite level hockey has been put on notice. People are calling for their resignation. People are very upset. They're very concerned. Mm-hmm. And they understand, like I do, that these cannot be the people to produce change in the world of hockey. We need new voices and we need new people. And I think that the action plan itself demonstrates that. Some of the suggestions around anti-sexual violence training, for example, these have been in place in the CHL for a long time. But the people who are not the people who produce the training, who I think, have great intentions and produce good programming, but the people who are in charge of kind of setting the stage for this, the coaches, the managers, etc., often subtly and not so subtly undermine that training before it happens, which is why we can't have these people in charge.
And do you think that's done, as I hear you describe this, do you think it's done intentionally?
I think that what's happened in hockey is that hockey has existed as a community that really only speaks to itself. You know, the people who are in charge of hockey are the people who've come through the system, and I'm speaking specifically about men's elite level hockey. They've come through the system and then come back into the system to coach, to mentor, and to produce the next generation of hockey players. When you have a system like that that's so closed, that doesn't hear from the outside, that doesn't get new ideas, they become incapable of hearing and understanding what's wrong. Right? They just don't listen, and they haven't been able to listen. They are a closed community. They're shut off. They're not transparent. They're not honest, and they speak to one another. They understand for themselves what hockey should look like, but unfortunately it's a very perverted understanding of what hockey should be and what it should look like, and they can't have any other perspectives because they won't seek them out. They believe that the best people for hockey are hockey people, and we heard that yesterday when Scott Smith said, you know, I'm the one who should see this through. And I think everybody in the room understood that he's also the one that created this problem. He negotiated the settlement. He created a culture of silence. Why would we trust that that can be the person to create a new open and transparent environment? He absolutely can't.
So you sound like you're making the case to basically clean house here.
Dismantle, yeah.
Yes, I absolutely am. And I think this is the thing. It's time for some creative thinking. It's time for something new. We don't know yet what form that should take. But we do know that men's elite level hockey in this country can't exist as it's existed. We can't have the same people in charge. We need to get people together who have been traditionally shut out of the system, people who have different interests than producing the culture as it is. We need to have those people in the room together and talk about and strategize and imagine new possibilities for the sport. Let's imagine something better.
So, Kristi, that's what you think should happen, but what do you think will happen?
I think that given how I don't know. I want to be hopeful. I want to be hopeful that we can get there. There's so much pressure on Hockey Canada and the board. There's pressure on the Canadian Hockey League. The pressure seems to be coming from all sides, which is exciting. This is a new phenomenon. We've seen these incidences before kind of bubble up. We blame a few bad actors and they go away. But this time it feels different. The federal government has pulled its funding. Sponsors have put their sponsorship on hold. Fans are saying no more. So I want to be hopeful. I won't be surprised if nothing changes, but I hold some hope that we can push this through public pressure, through corporate pressure, through government pressure, and really break through and do something really wonderful. You know, this is hockey is talked about in Canada as our national sport. It's imagined as something that represents us. Don't we want it to be something good? You know, if it's going to tell a story about what it means to be Canadian, let's have it tell a good story. I don't think anybody wants it to tell this particular story.
Before we run out of time, and I kind of teased this when we came in, Ari Goldkind's a criminal defense lawyer in Toronto. He's a frequent guest here on the radio station. He was asked about this earlier today on another show, and basically has the contention that he's going to offer here, and I want you to comment on this, Kristi, that all of this, meaning this scandal we talk about, is being blown completely out of proportion. Listen to this.
This is actually not a scandal. What we have, and the facts matter, you have a young woman that in 2018 did not want to participate in an investigation by one of the top and most expensive law firms in the country. Now, why is that important? Because everybody presumes these 8 young men who have been tarred and feathered are rapists or have committed sexual assault. The young woman then goes to the police. They look into this and they say there's nothing to see here. This is a PR exercise used by the wrong people for the wrong purposes.
What's your reaction to that?
I think if we took this as one story in isolation, then we maybe that take might be believable. But it's not one story in isolation. Hockey, men's elite level hockey in Canada, is premised on a culture of violence. There have been numerous claims of sexual violence. We know that athletes in collision sports are multiple times more likely to participate in acts of gang rape, and I mean, and not only that, we you know, it was only weeks later that we learned that in 2003 there's videotaped evidence of another, what appears to be another attack, an attack by 6 players on what looks to be a woman who's non-responsive. I think if this were an isolated incident, that story might hold, but this is not an isolated incident.
Okay.
The fact that the Canadian Hockey League settled this case says something. The fact that the police did not pursue it doesn't. Robin Doolittle, I think brilliantly reported in the Toronto Star that often police drop cases. The police force and junior hockey in Canada are deeply connected to one another. There's often pressures on victims to not cooperate because of the kinds of pressures on them and the publicity and fame associated with the athletes that they bring these charges up against. It's not unusual for people to opt out. This doesn't mean that her story is untrue.
Kristi, I want to thank you so much for your time. There's so much more to find out about this story. We have a long way to go here, I think, as you pointed out off the top. Thanks so much for the time this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me.
KRISTI Allen, St. Thomas University, studying men's hockey culture for years and years. I say this story, I think, is just beginning.
Informative, interactive, and always interesting. This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
We're not sure where SNL comedian Jay Pharoah was calling us from. He kind of seems like the kind of guy whose whole life is an adventure, and yet he's kind of zen about all his success. However, he did have a pinch me moment. Listen to this.
Jay-Z.
Cheer.
Denzel Washington.
All right, okay. That's what it is, right? You're on me.
Kevin Hart.
Hey, listen, first of all, the problem... Listen, you can't just do that, Jimmy. What's the problem, man?
Shaq.
Listen, this is ridiculous what you're saying.
Seth Rogen.
That's amazing.
Pete Davidson.
Yeah, bro.
Snoop Dogg.
Hey, yo, 1, 2, 3 into the phone.
President Obama.
Okay, now I understand that I'm appreciated in Hawaii. That's why I go there.
Jamie Foxx.
Hey, what's up, baby? How's everybody feeling? Yeah.
How about The Rock?
You know what, Jabroni? The Rock says this. If you're going to read my name, call me Dwayne Johnson.
Eddie Murphy.
There you go. Celebrity impressions,
So good.
Expressionist extraordinaire. That is Jay Pharoah. That's from a recent appearance with Jimmy Fallon, of course. Jay Pharoah is performing at Just for Laughs, and beyond performing, he's hosting this year's award show. He is on the line. Jay, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me, man. I was like, which comedy clip are they going to use? I was like, okay, they used the Fallon one. All right, that was tough.
That was
Do
a
you
pretty
approve?
good one, wasn't it? Yeah, that was all right.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
Okay.
I ain't no problem with it. Yeah, it's all
So,
good.
my
I'm not
question-
tripping, bro.
Yeah.
Sounded good.
My question is, when you do stand-up and you do impressions, do you always sort of feel like, as opposed to doing like a generic stand-up act where it's just kind of, talking bits and stuff, you're always forced, do people always ask you to do your impressions?
Well, my act is a little. It's not just impressions. So, at this point, when people come to my show, man, they sit down and listen, and the impressions are nothing but a sprinkle, bro. Like
Okay.
that's not the bulk of my material. So, people when the people come, they get a different experience, and they're just like, wow, we didn't expect all of this. And I'm like, yeah, man. Well, I'm not trying to put on a boring show. Be like, yo, okay, for my next impression, I don't do that. I'm not that guy. So I weave them in there. I weave them in there in a very lucid way, very clear way.
So Jay, listen, I'm really not good at math. I'm just going to state that out of the gate. But if I do the math a little bit, if you started in an SNL in 2010, that means you were like 22 years old. What was that like?
Yep, I was 22 years old. It was I was oblivious to a lot. Let's just say that. I was young. I was young. I was a kid. I was just getting in it. You know what I mean? My hair was thicker. There was it was just it was different. It was life changing. It was life changing. It was liberating. I got out of Virginia, And it turned me into a powerhouse, which I appreciate that show for doing. But how does a 22-year-old feel when the Lord Michaels tells him that he's about to move out of his parents' house? So that feels very good. I just felt great. So I was like, I'm out. Hey, y'all can walk around naked again, Mom and Dad. I don't even care. It doesn't matter to me anymore.
I mean, that's pretty amazing at that young age to be on the national stage the way it is. I love the way you describe it. How did you get discovered? Were you doing comedy in a club and someone sort of pointed you out to Lorne Michaels?
Yeah, I was. Well, I was definitely on the road. But I had an agent. My agent discovered me, and we put together and that was 2009. And we put together an audition tape for SNL in 2009, and then another one again in 2010. And the 2010 one is the one that got me the job, obviously. But yeah, I was on the road. I was on the road with Charlie Murphy. And I was going back and forth from Virginia to New York, and I was hitting the circuit. And something clicked, thank God. So I'm just glad that it all ended up working out.
Yeah, that's an understatement, working out. I mean, good grief. You've been crazy successful. I always wonder when someone's had as much success as you have had, Jay, do you end up kind of pinching yourself from time to time? Do you ever kind of just look at your life and go, holy moly, is this real?
Now I do. Now I can say I do. I can say before I was so focused on the elevation part of the career and not the ride itself, that some victories I would say fell by the wayside, and I didn't live in them like I should have lived in them. But I've learned as I've gotten older to take those, when you get those opportunities, whatever it is, you give thanks and you sit in the blessing, and when you do that, that's when you'll get blessed with more. So I feel like now I'm pinching myself and saying, wow, I can't believe it. Like I just did the ESPY Awards with Steph Curry. Like that's like what the hell? Like that doesn't happen to every day. You know what I mean? Like going on Jimmy Fallon and being able to perform up there and having a clip that gets how many million? I don't know how many million hits that thing has. I think it's like it's 17 million hits or something like that. But like when you see that, or I see the TikTok numbers just shooting through the roof. Now I'm like, wow, I'm really appreciative. So I'm pinching myself now, and I got some marks. I got some pinch marks because I keep doing it. There's been a lot of successes back to back over this summer and this year alone. So I feel so blessed and so honored and so humble to be where I'm at right now.
It's funny as I hear you talk, I still picture you on SNL doing the Barack Obama impersonations. You were a young kid then. Now all of a sudden, fast forward, it's like 12 years later, you're like a veteran on the comedy scene.
Jesus, yeah, I know, man. I know. I'm a veteran, but I'm still young. It's like I got drafted as a kid. I feel like a Spartan child. Like I got drafted as like a 13-year-old, and now it's like I'm older and I'm still I'm able to do the work, but it's like, man, damn it, these people, god dang it, I can't believe I'm a vet. Jesus, I'm a vet, and I'm younger than some of the people who haven't even got to do it.
Which is pretty
crazy,
impressive,
man.
yeah. And listen, you're host.
It's just a.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No. I didn't want to cut you off, man.
No, I didn't want to cut you off.
You got a spreadsheet.
I just want.
Go ahead.
No, we don't.
I just wanted to say, so here you are as this veteran, if you will. You're hosting the award show this year. That's usually, reserved. That's a pretty big honor.
Yeah, man, it is. Hopefully they will see it fit. Hopefully my work in the comedy community will give me one next year, and maybe I can get honored next year. I don't know, but I love the fact that I get to honor such a class of comedians, Taylor Tomlinson, Tomlinson, that's her name, Hassan Minhaj, let's see, Gerard Carmichael, Amy Schumer.
This isn't a test.
Just a few of those names. You say that again?
This isn't a test. I feel like you're.
No.
Like, I gotta check those.
but I know who I'm giving it up for, and it's really it's a good class to honor. So I'm kind of happy. I'm happy I get to do this one.
Some big names.
You know what I mean?
There.
And they didn't pull Alonzo Bowden out of there again. That's my guy too. I love Alonzo. I know he's done a few of them though. He's like he's a real veteran comedian. Like, yo, I remember being at Just for Laughs when I was 24 and him going off just because I was 24. I was like, dude, can I live? You're mad at my birthday? Come on, bro. You know what I mean? So I can't wait to. I can't wait to get there and just and do a good job, man. It's gonna be a fun one.
And then you've got the 2 solo shows coming up as well, Friday and Saturday night. So you're going to be busy while you're in town.
Oh yeah, absolutely busy. But shit, you should come out to one of the shows because it's gonna be one of the best live shows you've ever seen in your life. My solo one, my hosting is good, but you just wait until you see that goddamn show. That hour is polished and ready. I'm ready, so let's go.
Looking forward to it, man. Have fun in Montreal. You have fun when you're here, I guess, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, I got to stay out of the strip clubs. I'm not doing that again. Got into some bull last time I was out there. Oh? But, I've learned. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool.
Because you're older and wiser.
You're a veteran. That's right. You're a veteran. You've learned now. Jay PHAROAH performing at Just for Laughs. He's got a couple of his own shows, hosting, as I said, this year's award show as well. Jay, thank you very much. Looking forward to catching you up here.
Hey, man. I'll see y'all there.
See you
there.
Take
care.
Asking questions, looking for answers. Here's more of Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
What happens when you're faced with a dying loved one in hospital and you can't even count on a staff member for help or comfort? That's exactly what happened to Jean Bottari. He experienced this when his father passed away just 2 weeks ago in a Montreal hospital with no help or acknowledgement from staff. He shares that story now. We've talked on a variety of occasions about the fact that, and I think we did this just yesterday on our first day back, the COVID is not gone. It's still here. We're not going to have the debate over whether we're in a worse situation come the fall and we have to go back into lockdown, but right now we're in a wave. And I looked at the numbers today and again today, 196 new hospitalizations. We still have over 2,000 people in hospital. And we get these every day. Might as well mention. People say, don't ignore this, because if you do, people will not be paying attention. COVID's still here.
It is.
There are people getting sick. And yes, there are still people dying.
Every day.
Yeah. Which is why I thought it was important to get to this next story. I read I guess you can call this an op-ed. It was published in the Gazette on the weekend. And it concerns someone. And when I first looked at this, I thought, wait a sec, is this going back months ago? No, this goes back 2 weeks ago, middle of July, about a gentleman whose father had gotten sick and gotten COVID. And I want him to tell the story because he's on the line. And as I said, when I first read this, I was quite moved. It's a very, very sad story, but it's important to tell.
Agreed.
Because this is the reality of what is going on still now, even now. Jean Bottari is on the line. And Jean, first of all, thank you for doing this. I imagine it's not an easy thing to have to recount. Having lived through this, you lost your dad.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
Yeah, listen, first of all, tell people, what is your background, by the way?
I have been an orderly for the... I'm sorry about my English.
Your English is fine.
It's a little rusty, but I'll try to do my best.
You sound great.
I was an orderly for the past 31 years, and I've seen people die before. That's not a problem, during my career. And I left the healthcare sector in 2014 because I couldn't take it anymore. We were already overworked, and that's it. I left before even I could retire.
Okay. So I thought that was important to know because you've seen what things are like in the system, and sadly your story is about the system right now and how it's been affected by COVID. So if you could retell the story based on what you wrote, and I'll just start you off. Your dad got sick, and this is now July 12th.
Yes.
And he was transported to hospital. What happened?
He was transported to hospital the 12th. He was obviously stayed in the emergency room, and they put him in a room that is especially for COVID, isolated from all the others. And when I got there, I noticed there were many, many cases, many patients who had COVID who were isolated. I'd say about 50% of them were COVID. And the 12th and 13th, everything was going fine. They were taking care of him. He had an oxygen mask. His oxygen was monitored. His saturation, everything was going so-so. You know, he was breathing. He had a hard time breathing, but with the oxygen mask, he was doing okay.
Now, let me stop you for a second. Had he been diagnosed with COVID at that point, or because you wrote he was being treated for pneumonia?
He had been diagnosed with COVID, and pneumonia probably was due to his COVID.
Okay.
That's what they told us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're taking turns at this point, visiting your father. Your daughter is going when you can't go. Go ahead.
Yeah. My daughter and I. And July 14th, she was there in the morning, and she was supposed to go to work in the afternoon. So I got there at 12:15. And as soon as I got there, my father had a very, very hard time breathing. He was gasping for air. And I noticed that they had removed his oxygen mask. I have no idea why, but they had removed it, and they weren't monitoring his oxygen anymore. And in 24 hours, I mean, my dad's face had changed completely, and he was really gasping for air. He had a hard time breathing. So my daughter decided to ring the bell. She rang the bell. My daughter holds one of my father's hands. I was holding the other. And 15 minutes later, he just lifted his eyes up to the sky. He sighed. He had his last breath, closed his eyes, and he was gone. But during those 15 minutes, no one came. No one answered the bell. So my daughter decided to deactivate it. And later on, about 45 minutes later, I see a nurse passing by, rushing by because they're very busy. By the way, I'm not blaming them. I know they're overworked. Mm-hmm. I tell the nurse that my dad had passed. She says, okay, he's not my patient. My condolences. I'll tell the nurse who's in charge of your dad. And she continued running. So we stayed there for another close to 3 hours, I'd say. During those 3 hours, I saw a doctor. Not in my dad's room, though. Outside of my dad's room, I saw a doctor. He gave us his condolences. I saw another nurse. I saw the head nurse. But no one bothered to go in the room to see if effectively my dad was dead or not. Like I told you, I worked 31 years as an orderly. I knew my dad passed away. But I'm just trying to imagine a family that has no notion in healthcare and the symptoms that a person goes through, being left all by themselves. It's not humane to do that. Mm. It isn't. Mm-hmm.
I want to stop you. I want to, Jean. I want to stop you for just a second and go back to what you said about the call button. So you're in the room. Your dad is now obviously in difficulty. Yeah. Your daughter rings the call button to get someone to come to try to do something, and nobody showed up. No one showed up.
And like I told you, after 3 hours, no one went in the room to verify if he had a pulse, if he was effectively passed. So that's why I'm talking about it. It's not for myself.
Yeah. And you make a very good point, and I think it's worth saying again. You're not blaming anybody here because, as you said, there are other patients, and it's a busy time. It's understaffed. We all know how tough it is in hospitals, and that's important to point out. You didn't write this to blame anybody. You wrote it to basically cast some light on the situation and just how bad it is.
Yeah, and to alert the authorities, the government. You know, they're telling us everything is going fine, but the staff is so overworked, whether it be the doctors, the nurses, the orderlies, everyone is going crazy.
Jean, your dad was 98 years old, as you point out. Do you feel like his age played a role in how he was treated?
Actually, I thought about that later on that day, and I think it might have something to do with it.
I'm curious, too, why, you pointed this out early, why was his oxygen mask taken off?
You know, Aaron, I was so distraught when this happened that I left the hospital. I didn't even think about asking them why they took the oxygen away.
Okay, because they put it on. They know he's dealing with an issue. He's having trouble breathing, yet someone took the mask off and never put it back on. Okay.
And it was that way since my daughter got there. He didn't have his mask on that day.
And he'd had it on prior to that. Every time you'd seen him, he had it on.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get answers now, Jean?
Well, actually, because I'm not naming the hospital. I don't want to, because this can happen anywhere now in Quebec. So there's one journalist, though. I named the hospital to her, and she called the hospital. And they told her, obviously, they're not going to discuss, because of patient confidentiality,
right.
Not going to discuss a specific case. And they told them, tell the person to complain. I'm not going to complain because I know the system, and nothing is going to happen. I'm going to try to get his file if I can, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Again, I thought this was just important that people realize this didn't happen 6 months ago, Jean. This happened basically 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
So the situation, even now that we think the worst is over, is still as bad.
Still going on, yeah.
Thank you for sharing the story. I know, as I said, it wasn't easy to do, and our condolences, of course, to you and your family.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you both for having me.
Yeah.
And, Aaron, I've been listening to you for ages. That doesn't make you any younger, neither do I, but I've been out here listening to you for a long time.
We appreciate that, and I wish we could have done this under better circumstances.
Me
But,
too.
Jean, I do thank you for sharing the story. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
So that's what's going on. See, you don't talk about it every day. You tend to forget. There are still people getting sick, going to hospital, and dying in hospitals. I kind of have the shivers a bit to hear that you could sit there and just press a call button. Your dad's basically dying in front of you. Nobody showed up.
What I'm really struck by is that Jean, he doesn't sound angry.
No.
He, as he said, he's not naming the hospital. He's not naming names at all. He just felt like the story needed to be told, and I couldn't agree more.
And so did we.
Mm-hmm.
The stories in the news that are worth your time. Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
If you do a great workout and then tell yourself it's okay to treat myself to a bag of chips afterwards or maybe a whole tub of ice cream, sadly, it seems it doesn't quite work that way. Even if you exercise a lot, it doesn't mean you can eat whatever you want. Ah, man. We spoke to health and fitness writer Jill Barker.
I wanted to do this story. I read this the other day in the Gazette, and I thought, okay, this is one of those stories that we have to address because typically these are the stories you do when there's a new year. So people make a plan, they go to the gym, they do that for 30 days, and they fall off the wagon, and that's the end of it for another year. Now, my girlfriend, I call her my wife, is a personal trainer, so she knows all about this stuff, and she will tell people who start training with her, for example, you can train as hard as you want, as long as you want, but unless you change your diet, it's all for naught.
I don't want to hear that.
But that's the first rule, because a lot of people say, well, I'll just work with a trainer and then I can eat whatever I want. As long as I'm working hard and doing what I want to do, it doesn't matter what I eat. And that, of course, is a complete fallacy. And this study says that exact same thing. But the reason I bring it up, it's a very wide-ranging study. Jill Barker wrote about this in her column in the Gazette. She's on the line. Hi, Jill.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
So when I say wide-ranging study, I'm not kidding, right? We're talking about almost 350,000 subjects?
Yeah, 350,000 subjects from the UK. So that's a pretty good cross sample of adults between the age of 40 to 69. So, and they, were pretty average in terms of the amount of physical activity that they logged. So they're pretty good reflection of you and I.
Okay, so 40 to 69, pretty big sample, as I said.
Yeah.
And this was done, what was the idea in doing this was to determine what?
Yeah, to see if exercise could be protective of a poor diet and vice versa.
Okay.
So I think I started the lead saying, we've all kind of had a great workout and then think that we can dive into a bag of chips or, a pint of ice cream.
I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you. I'm not.
Jill, he's
honestly,
staring
I'm not.
right at me.
I don't mean to be.
With impunity.
Yeah.
And, that's not the case.
La, 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 I can't hear you.
So they do this massive study, and they determine that's in fact not what you can do, because diet turns out to be as or more important, I think perhaps even fair to say, than just the working out. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. So you can't kind of excel at one and fail at the other. So, if you really like to exercise, but you also really like fast food, you can't kind of dial up the exercise to make up for your love of fast food. What you really need to do is, follow a good diet and follow a great exercise plan, and you're going to be as healthy as you can be.
Okay, so I have heard that depriving yourself, though, of things that you really want actually makes you have kind of an unhealthy relationship with food. And so you'll end up sort of eating more of it or binge eating stuff that's bad for you. Is it all about kind of moderation here, Jill? Like allow yourself those indulgences, but not every day?
Yeah, I mean, they qualified a good diet. They didn't give a lot of information of what that exactly was in the study. But, it's the general eat lots of fruit and veggies. It doesn't mean you can't have the ice cream. I think we know kind of having those indulgences is fine. It's just like the whole idea is, I'm training for a marathon. I can put whatever in my mouth because, I'm so fit. Or I'm so fit, or, that type of mentality really needs to have a switch.
Aren't there some people who kind of can almost do that, though, who exercise so much and they have such a crazy metabolism that they can allow themselves to eat whatever they want?
Well, I kind of think you're mixing up, the shape of somebody's body. So you're saying, hey, they can eat whatever they want and stay slim.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I don't think that's
what
this was looking at.
Right.
This was really looking at mortality. So, the people with the best diet and the best exercise routine had the longest life.
That makes sense.
So that's what it was looking at. And they're saying, hey, you can't have a great exercise routine and a poor diet and still, have your best, longest life.
So, as you look at the rest of this, because part of the other results here, and this is always one of those questions you kind of try to understand, how much do I have to work out for there to be a benefit here? They looked at that as well, right, in terms of time spent.
Oh, yeah. And that was kind of, for me, the scariest part of
yeah, me too.
What
these
they found
numbers.
out. Yeah, those were huge numbers, and I'm sorry, I'm just scaling through. I think
211
211 to 450 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise a week. So that's a lot of exercise.
So let's do the math real quick. 210 minutes at the bottom end over 7 days. That's about a half an hour a day, every day for a week. Yeah. That's a lot.
Well, that's 150 would be 30 minutes, 3 times 7. So, yeah. So you want to make sure that now we're talking about moderate to vigorous exercise a week, of which walking fits in there.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
so
that's good.
Don't always think that, exercise has to be in the gym with Lycra on and a full bead of sweat running down your face. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about exercise. I always say it's if you can hear yourself breathe, you're exercising.
Okay.
So it's not a stroll through the mall, but it is a purposeful walk. So I think those numbers are doable.
Okay. Again, so if you incorporate and you say that walking, if you're doing a brisk walk, for example, suddenly that doesn't seem so bad. If you do a brisk walk, even on a treadmill or something like that for 15 or 20 minutes and do another 15, 20 minutes in the gym with resistance training, you're basically getting what they say works.
Every day.
Well, but if that's at the bottom end.
To add up, right?
Right.
So it just means you're going to do 10, you're going to find 10 extra minutes here and 10 extra minutes there. I always say, don't always go for the shortcut. Take the long route.
Yeah.
It actually pays off in the long run. So don't overcomplicate it. Don't get freaked out with big numbers. Just try to, be more physically active every day. And one of the easiest ways is, the same old stuff, walking more, taking the stairs more, trying to fit those short bursts of activity into your day.
Yeah, I will point out the one thing I found interesting in the column. It says it's worth noting that those with the healthiest diets, also had a 14% lower risk of cancer mortality.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
So, I talk mainly about exercise more than diet, but diet is a very strong predictor of health. right? And I think we all intuitively know what a good diet is. But an excellent diet is probably a little more veggies than we normally do, a little more fruit than we normally do, and a little less of those empty calories. That the extra sweet treats. A little less of those, and you're starting to get into that, good to very good diet category.
So
again, doable.
Yeah.
I have a question, Jill, about, we're talking about trying to find those minutes of exercise. I also remember having heard or read at some point that you need to kind of have 10 minutes in a block together. So, I'm thinking about, if you take the stairs rather than the elevator at work, or you walk to the corner store rather than hopping in the car, do all those little bits add up, or you need to kind of focus on having a 10 to 20 minute chunk of time together?
Well, with exercise, there's exercising for health, and there's exercising for fitness, and there's exercising for performance. So when you're talking about exercising for health, which again is what this study was looking at, any little bits, they all add up.
Okay.
Right? So those 5 minutes, those extra rounds of stairs, and besides, once you start doing that, not taking the shortcut, you're going to find that you're going to build in 15, 20, 30 minutes of extra movement a day, and that's significant.
And that starts to pay off as well. I think people, the hardest part obviously is getting started. Once you get started and you're sort of building up that 10 minutes to 12 minutes it gets easier all the time.
Yeah, but then that's when I think I can have the poutine.
No, you can't. You can't. Or the chips. Or the ice cream.
Or the chips, yeah.
On a weekend.
I'm sulking, Jill. You can't see my face, but I'm sulking.
No
right
sulking
now.
allowed. Hey, Jill, thank you so much. Appreciate your time
My
today.
pleasure.
Take
All
care.
right.
Jill Barker,
Bye-bye.
who does fitness over at the Montreal Gazette. You know what? The idea, though, and you brought it up before, that whole idea of moderation, that's always the key, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to have the chips? That's great. You just can't have them every time you go to the gym afterward as a reward. That's what it comes down to.
But I see that sense in that you have to have a healthy approach to things. Allow yourself those indulgences, but just, like we said, in moderation. But depriving yourself of those, it creates this weird obsession, right? Where you're like, chips. Just eat a handful of chips, man. And then
Can you eat just a handful of chips?
I can. I'm really good that way. Okay. I honestly am. I know and it bugs some of my friends.
And do you have that handful every single day?
No, I don't.
Right.
I try not to have chips in the house. And then when I'm craving them, I will have some chips in the house, and then I try and make the bag last.
So you
very
have this
much
under
the same
control.
approach with wine.
You seem to have this under control then.
I mean, I do, but I don't have the exercise part under control. I need to be more active.
Easier to do now than ever before. You have a phone. You can follow classes on a phone. It's like you could never do this 10 years ago. Now you can. I see people doing this all the time. You put your phone on the ground. They give you the class. You just follow along.
I mean, I just got to get back on. I was able to take things for granted to a certain degree just because of how I'm built, but you reach an age where you just can't really do that anymore. So
anyway, if you decide to get a trainer, I know someone who's really good. That wraps up this edition of The Week That Was on the iHeartRadio Network. I'm Aaron Rand along with Natasha Hall, and we will see you next week.
Have a great week.